I am sitting in a rather modest flat, which is very near the Portobello Road. Now, the Portobello Road is one of the most famous roads in London, which has the biggest market in the whole of the world. You can buy cabbages, you can buy sausages, you can buy fish, you can buy watches, you can buy almost anything. And people say that if you start at the top of the Portobello Road and walk your way down to the bottom of the Portobello Road, you can buy your own watch because someone may have taken it in the meantime. So that is one of the features of the Portobello Road. Otherwise, a nice thing about this area, you never feel very lonely at night time because you often hear the underground going over the bridge. There is also a large, big cat whose name is Pushcup, and I have the great responsibility of feeding that cat. But the cat is so big that I've decided not to give it more than one meal every day. Sometimes it complains about this, but never mind, it is in better shape than it was before. Since I have known Quique, we have been to several places, and today we went to a very small museum indeed, called the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, which is so small that you hardly have room to move at all. We did ask whether we could buy some of the porcelain, or indeed some of the musical instruments, but unfortunately they said they were not for sale. So we were very disappointed indeed about that. But we are going to go back there again and insist that some of these instruments should be sold, but because I don't even have a piano in my own flat, which is bad, extremely bad. Well, I was born in a part of London called Streatham, and that was in 1934. And my father and my mother had a school in Streatham, and that's where I was as a very young boy. But when the war came along, we had what they call flying bombs coming over, and they were known as doodle bugs, and they were sent by the Germans over to London, and they would stop their engines over the middle of the London and come down silently and explode. So in about 1942, my father decided that if one of these bombs fell on the school, everyone would be killed. Himself, my mother, myself, my brothers and sisters, and all the pupils. Therefore, we decided, or it was decided, that we move all the way out from London to a town called Minehead, which is in Somerset, in the west of England. And the whole school went there. And so for the duration of the war, and in fact until 1946, the school was in Minehead in Somerset. And then in 1946, my parents decided to bring the school back nearer to London because the war was at an end and all the pupils were returning to London or near to London, and the school was relocated in a place in Sussex which is called Forest Row, and that is where it still is, although my parents died many years ago. And then I went to Oxford, to a very famous college called Christ Church in Oxford, which is one of the oldest colleges that there is. It was built in 1470. And it's still there, and that is where I started by learning French and German, and I got bored with French and German, so after 1 year I said I wanted to study Arabic and Persian, and there was much doubt as whether I could do this in the space of 2 years. And I persuaded the professor of Arabic and the professor of Persian that I could do it. And I got a degree in Arabic, in Persian, in 2 years from start to finish. Although when I began, I did not know one single word in either language. So that's not too bad. Anyway, when I left Oxford, I went, actually before before going to Oxford, I was in the army.
Oh, yes, before.
And yes, before going to Oxford. And I had a very nice place indeed in Plymouth, in the Oxford, what's called the officers' mess. And all the troops, they knew how and when any officer had found a girlfriend and what the girlfriend's name was. And a friend of mine had a girlfriend called Dawn. And he was on duty one evening, and he was inspecting the guard, and I was walking past at about 6 o'clock, and he said to the sergeant, "Right-ho, sergeant," he said, "you can carry on now, because I have to be up at the crack of dawn." And all the troops started laughing, and I walked by, and I tried to keep a straight face. And the sergeant said to the troops, "Don't laugh on parade." And another story, well, it's nothing to do with the army, this is another story. When I was digging a hole, a huge big hole on the Udieu for what they call the septic tank, which is a big tank for the sewerage. In other words, the outlet from the loo. And this hole had to be 2 meters deep and 1.5 meters wide. And it took me about a week to dig it with a big shovel and a lot of work. And when I had finished it, I had a small little ladder, just 2 meters, a long way to go down. And I got myself a glass of wine, and I walked my way down to the bottom of the hole, and I drank a glass of wine, and I said, "Cheers! Here's to this hole." And to my surprise, there was a chap standing above me, looking down. I had not seen him at all, coming along, and he was looking down, and he said, "Are you talking to yourself?" He's looking down. There was the bottom of the hole saying, "Yes, talking to yourself." Anyway, there you are. And anyway, after that, sometime after that, I went to the Sudan, and I stayed in a place called Khartoum, which is where the White Nile comes up from Lake Victoria and meets the Blue Nile that comes down from Ethiopia. And they join together in Khartoum. which we used to spell Cartomb. And I stayed there for quite a long time. And I met some interesting people there. And one day I was taking an aeroplane from Khartoum to a place called Wad Medani. And the pilot, who was an Englishman, said to me, "We're going to have a bit of fun on this flight." So I said, "Oh, indeed." He said, "Yes, just you wait." So I sat in my seat, and he came out of the pilot cockpit with 2 pieces of string. And he put one piece of string on the right-hand side and another piece of string on the left-hand side. And he gave it to an Arabic passenger on one side and another Arabic passenger on the other. And he said, "I am going to the lavatory. If the aircraft moves a little bit, you pull your piece of string, and if it goes too much, you must pull your piece of string." And he went back to the lavatory. But of course the co-pilot, which the other people didn't know, was still in the cockpit, and he made the aeroplane move from left to right and up and down. And these 2 Arabs were pulling their pieces of string, 1, 2, 3, all the time, hope, and saying, "Allah is the greatest, Allah will save us." That's a true story. Absolutely true story. He came out with his pile, he kept on saying, "Here's a piece of string for you, here's a piece of string for you, I'm going to have a peek." And the aircraft was all over the place. Allah! You've never seen anything like it, Quique. Anyway, there you are.
Anya, what about your job in these countries?
Well, I don't know.
Anything special?
Well, my job is it on there? My job as a publisher's representative in the Middle East and in West Africa and well, essentially Middle East and West Africa, was that of simply going to call on bookshops and the ministries of education and so forth, and say, "Well, these are the books we have. Do you want to buy them?" But because one was in contact with people in pretty high places, such as the Minister of Education, the Minister of the Interior, the Minister of Finance, the top booksellers in several of these countries, one actually got hold of quite a lot of extremely interesting information, which other people didn't have. And so I was sometimes approached by some English newspapers who would say, "Look, what's going on in the Sudan?" And I knew probably more than most people did because I got about. And so one passed on such information as one thought was necessary, but one kept a lot to oneself. I have heart chap thoughts. Never mind. Never mind. We'll put the bed up anyway. Very good indeed. Of course. Let's see. Very good indeed. Let's see if we've got any messengers on. Do you pretty got? Yes. And do you play well? Where do you play? In London? In Scotland? In Scotland. Where's cat? No. Now then. There's a very lovely song indeed, which is a French song, which goes, I will never go to sea again, because I'm far too old. And yet, when I hear the sound of the wind in the shrouds, I want to go back. Je n'irai plus jamais à la mer, car je suis un peu boiteux. Ce n'est pas ça qui m'empêche d'aimer la mer comme mes vieux. Et pourtant, quand j'entends le bruit du vent dans les haubans. Wonder. Mad. Une chanson française, quoi. Yes, well, there you are. This is another song, which I will sing very quickly. Jusqu'au summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is ripe. Oh, your daddy's rich and your mama am pretty. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. Don't you cry. Anything else? Well, I don't know. I can sing one more let me hang, but not to be called in. Well, this one is composed by Beethoven, and just before he died, and it says the Signor Abate, which means Holy Father, come to see me, give me the benedizione. And then he goes into German at the end. He says, may the devil take you, hinter der Teufel, wenn sie nicht kommen, which means if you don't arrive. And so it goes, and it's a canon in 3 voices, and it starts fairly high, and you have to go fairly deep, so it goes, Signor Abate, io sono ammalato. Santa Padre viene, datemi la benedizione, la benedizione. Will sie der Teufel, wenn sie nicht kommen, will sie der Teufel, wenn sie nicht kommen, will sie der Teufel. Not too bad. indeed. Not too bad indeed. Anyway. Quique, very nice to see. We'll go and have a glass of beer and then I must come back and do my papers. Cool, what a complicated number.
What happened?
Very quickly then.
Yes.
Very quick.
Oh, don't worry. What happened?
Well, when I was in a very good friend of mine who was he's dead now. He's called Gavin Maxwell. And he written many books indeed, and he decided to go and write a book about a man called Salvatore Giuliano, who was head of the Sicilian mafia. And he was born in a little tiny village called Montelepre, which means the mountain of the hares. And that is about 35 kilometers by a snaky road from Palermo. And so we went there into this tiny little village, and he had a Land Rover and a tent. And he said, well, we'll pitch the tent in this field. And I said, if you do that, you're asking for trouble. You don't. If you're looking into the life of Salvatore Giuliano, the last thing you do is to pitch a tent in a field. You'll get yourself stabbed overnight. I said, the best place to pitch the tent is in the cemetery. In the cemetery, he said. I said, yes, in the cemetery. I will find out who is the custodian of the cemetery. So I went into this tiny little village and I made inquiries in my rather limited Italian. Dove si trova il custode di cimetiere? Dove si trova? Where is? And finally some chap turned up called Giuseppe, pretty ancient fellow. And I said, can we put the tent in your cemetery? And he said, yes. I said, you have a key? Yes. Do you have a spare key? Yes. So I said, right, come along then, please. Open up your cemetery. So he opened up the cemetery gates, above which were written in Italian, we were like you, you will be like us. A rather encouraging thought. Anyway, we drove the Land Rover in, and we pitched our tent in the cemetery. And we had a key to the padlock of the cemetery, and so everything was fine. Now Giuseppe would come every morning at about 7 o'clock, and he would knock on the side of the tent. Come sta? How are you? Sto bene. Well, very well, very well. And then he would say, E lei, come stai? And how are you? Va bene, he would say. He was always miserable. One day, he was absolutely smiling all over his face. And I said, Giuseppe, why are you so happy today? And he said, someone has died, and therefore I must dig a grave, and therefore I will earn some money. That's true. That is true. That's absolutely true.
What about the label you told me?
Oh, the label are very good as well. I'll tell you about the label. When Idi Amin, who was the former president of Uganda, decided to make his country independent because it had formerly been a British colony, he wrote to the Queen of England and he said, Dear Queen of England, now that I have decided to make my country independent, do you mind very much if I remove your portrait from the right-hand top corner of my stamps, as I'm going to create a new stamp? And she wrote back and she said, because she had a special brand of marmalade called Robinson's Marmalade, which had a picture of a black man on it. on the label. And she wrote back and she said, "Dear Mr. Amin, or dear President Amin, I do not object in the least if you remove my portrait from the top right-hand corner of your stamp, as long as you don't mind if I remove your portrait from my marmalade labels." Anyway, Quique, if I think any more, I'll record them myself and I'll send you the tape. If I can remove your portrait from my marmalade label, I'd absolutely splendid. Dear. Do you think of these? Oh. I think I know that one. Oh dear. A little story about Paris? Ah, well, just one then. Oh, just one. Wait for it. Take a seat. Be a seat. Yeah, or now I remember one story. Yes. In the old days in Paris, there were first and second class carriages on the underground, which they call the metro. And for some extraordinary reason, you could travel with a second class ticket in a first class carriage between 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock in the evening. I never understood why. Now, I'd been to a party, and I took the first metro, which left at 5 o'clock in the morning from this party, with a second class ticket, and I got into a first class carriage. And an inspector came along, and he woke me up, and he said, "May I see your ticket, please?" I said, "Of course." I showed him my second class ticket, and he said, "You are not allowed to be in this carriage." And I said, "What do you mean? I know the regulations extremely well. I can travel between 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night with a second class ticket in a first class carriage, and I know that." And he said, "Yes, sir, but do you know it is midday?" Two and two. Oh, yeah, of course. Which do you prefer, Paris or London? I think Paris. I think Paris, just by that much. But only by that much. I think Paris. Why? Well, there's more life in the street.
Oh, yes.
You know, there is more life in the street. And it's only by about that much, though. And there's quite a lot of life before. There's a lot of life in the Portobello Road, no doubt about that. It's difficult to say. I mean, it's extremely difficult. They're a strange lot, the French. They're a strange lot. I mean, you know what I have here? Arteries, which is very rare. It greatest French writers. There's a man called Racine. And Racine is like Shakespeare. He's as important as Shakespeare. These are the original editions of Racine. I found those in a junky bookshop. And the man he didn't know a word of French, you see. So I said, well, how much are those in music? Wow. Couple of quid, £2. These are the original editions of Racine's Meal. You want that word in France? Several meals. Bet. When ye chanted, Mark, I still got some stuff. What can I do, you see? Now look there. That's her stuff. 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 And she said, you know, Staples said I could go and stay on the houseboat, but she might be a bit hungry if I... Come and have a look. Come have a look. Come. Can I leave one or two things in your flat? Your flat? As if it wasn't crowded enough already. So I said, one or two things? Yes. Yes, she didn't say it anyway. Round the back there, I must be a bit nut. We'll find out the cat set. I'll give him a call. Cat. Good cat. Come on. Good cat. And he's obviously not there. So, one or two things is... all that you. And she was very generous, you see. She said, but I'll tell you what, Mark, I don't want these speakers anymore. You can have those. So I said, oh, 2 good speakers. But I've never seen anyone with so many pairs of shoes and so many clothes. God, my head. So I said, listen, I said, if you want to keep on good terms with Stephanie, don't take anything more to the house, but otherwise she will. But anyway, it seems to be working out. It's funny.
Tell me something about German.
The Germans, yeah. Or, well,
Did you live in Germany?
Germany, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I went to Germany. I went to Stuttgart, which is in southern Germany. Well, mid Germany there. Pretty well. And there was a chap, a very interesting further. He was the director of the Stuttgart Chamber Orchestra.
Oh,
Yes. Oh yeah. He was a composer himself. Very nice chap. And he had been in a very famous German musical town called Leipzig, which is in northern Germany. And when Britain was at war with Germany, I'm thinking about 1944, somewhere like that, there was a massive Royal Air Force raid on Leipzig. And he and his wife and his children went out that particular evening to have a meal with some friends of theirs. And the Royal Air Force came in and they bombed the town. And when he came back from his meal, there was absolutely nothing, not that, left of his house. 2 Steinway grand pianos, all his books, every single thing, nothing at all, absolutely nothing, just a pile of rubbish. And so I said to this chap, a very nice chap, I said, you must have felt dreadful. You must have felt absolutely dreadful. You know what he said? He said I tell you what, Quique, he said the most astonishing thing that I've ever heard. He said to me, he said, Mark, I have never felt so free in my life because I did not have any possessions at all, except my mind and a pen and some paper, and now I can compose my music. Isn't that, you see, isn't that marvelous? 2 grand pianos, all of his possessions, all of his books, nothing. He said, now I can start again. Wasn't that fantastic philosophy? Yeah. And very hard. Oh, very hard. But he taught me a lot, you see. So many people, I mean, this removing man, he said to me, he said, do you know what, mate? Do you know what? I will tell you something, he said. If you were to throw half of these bags into the dustbin, I don't think the lady would notice. Hey, that's what he said. Ah, there's the cat. Hello. Hello. I thought you'd come at last. Hello, you horror. Hello. Annie. Coming. Coming. Hello. What you been? What have you been doing? Actually, it's not my cat, but I have to look after it. Yeah, because the man in charge is away on holiday.
Oh,
He's not starving.
no.
What he likes to do is the Artibet. When he's had enough, he sniffs around the place. Because is this my home or is it not? Then you horror. I don't apologize. He's over. No, that shall. I will show you a picture. Show you a picture of my cottage. I don't like to fetch such that. Anyway, you see, she goes back quite a long time. February 8th. Yeah. Now, this is the plan.
And my room was this. My room was there.
That's right. That is my room. Well, this is all what conferences and stuff. What about their life? Being Oxford. Oh, office. That's fantastic. Be that. Anything special? Well, the only special things when I was at college, it was men owned. Oh, oh yes, no women at all. Look, sends you no women. Not yeah, men. If you had a girlfriend, she was allowed to come and visit you between 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, I mean, you thought that's a long enough. But those were the rules. And when a girlfriend came, you had to go to this date. That gate there. Yeah. And there on the left-hand side was the porter. And a man with his little office on the left there, just inside that gate. And you'd say it, you'd go there, you write in his book, "What is the lady's name, sir?" You'd have to say, Lucy Taylor, what it was. Thank you. "And your name, sir?" "Mark Harwood." "Yes, yes, Mr. Harwood, I know you're in the pet quarter, aren't you?" Which is the names they put up, but they name you everyone by signature. "Don't forget the natives must be out by 6 o'clock. See?" "Yeah, I won't forget it." That was so. And if you came back after that, say 6:30, with the lady, he would say, "Right, tomorrow morning, I want you to see at the head of the college." It was like that. Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes. So you had to go to the head of the college, and the head of the college would say, "I understand that you had a lady to see you yesterday, Mr. Harwood, and she left at 6:30, is that correct? According to the reports from the porter." You say, "And hurry, that is correct, sir." "Well, now, I want you back in college every single night for the next 2 weeks by 10 o'clock in the evening." And the porter would be informed, and you had to be come back into college before 10 o'clock in the evening for 2 weeks. So if you're invited to a party anywhere in Oxford, that's it. No, sorry, paper. That was it. Like it was like that. Oh, yes. And I did personally, it was a damn good thing, because there's too much, what is lacking all over the place is what I thought discipline. I really need to be. That's too much. Oh, it doesn't. It's too much of a work. The only way you can get good education is if you have discipline. If you don't have discipline, ridiculous. What's discipline for you? Well, I'm on the way. My discipline was very severe. I tell you that. Where's the pat book? Oh, crikey. Yeah. Well, I was very, when I was a teacher, I was very strong discipline. But I wasn't. I used to say, now when I come to this classroom, I want you all to stand up. Every single one of you stand up. Up in there. They can stand up. I said, that one you can all stand up. Nowadays, if people go feet on the benches or what. So that was taught. When I was at school, Quique, if I dropped a piece of paper, mind you, I haven't heard this, all right, I've been reading some worry, but if I dropped a piece of paper in the school, in the park or anywhere, if I drop one piece of paper on the ground like that, just black, tiny piece of paper, sweet paper. Right, you sweep the classroom this issue. Yes. Oh, yes, you bet. If you dropped a piece of paper in the playing field, in the football field, and got a piece of sweet paper, come here. You will sweep the classroom this evening. Did it? Jolly well did it. Tell you that. Very good. A personal question. Do you believe in God? I don't disbelieve in God. Shall we say, I'll answer your question in another way. I believe in a creator, but I do not know if his name is God. Is that all right? Yeah. I mean, I believe in a creator because I would find it very hard to describe otherwise how there are so many different varieties of trees and plants and birds and all being killed by us. The most stupid of his creatures, unfortunately. Animals are much more intelligent than we are. Animals are far more intelligent than human beings. I've decided. Well, I would say human beings are intelligent, or were intelligent, up to about 1850. Since 1850, human beings are absolutely stupid. Completely crass. I mean, they're mad. They're collectively mad. Do you know that there are 9 nuclear power stations in Moscow itself? 9. Inside Moscow, there are 9 nuclear power stations. And the nuclear waste from those power stations is being taken away and put into the parks in Moscow. This is true. This is absolutely true. You see? That's what I mean. Now, no animal out there. Kushta, that big fat animal, far more intelligent. Far more intelligent. He's not going to invent a nuclear bomb or anything like that, or nuclear power station in the back of his yard. He's far much too intelligent to do that. Of course he is. He knows when he's hungry. There's a man knows that I've on, give him time to eat. He's far more intelligent. Yeah. There are 9 nuclear power stations inside Moscow. Inside Moscow. 9! And they're all of them, apparently, in a dreadful state of repair. You know, it's a sort of a Chernobyl situation all over again. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, this bit. You're a couple. Mad. Absolutely mad. And they've got coal fields galore in Moscow, in Russia. Got loads and loads of coal. They burn as much bloody coal they want. No. Daft. Pretty daft. All this business about building a new runway and you know, we estimate that during the next, what was he saying on News Today, but there were 150 million people use London airports per year. We estimate that this will increase by such and such percentage in the next 30 years. They don't address themselves to the most essential issue that there is in the entire world. There are two essential things that you've got to do. You have to reduce the world's population. That is an absolute must. You can't go on and on and on and on. After all, if you've got even ants in an anthill, a rabbit, do you know what happens in a rabbit hole? If there are too many rabbits in a rabbit hole, the female rabbit does not produce any more. The female rabbit actually, it's called ingests. So instead of giving birth to more rabbits, the female rabbit actually kills the rabbit inside the womb to keep the population. Ah, yes, that is true. It's called ingesting. Yes, I know it may be difficult to understand, but it's true. Yes, because they know that in that area there's enough room for so many rabbits and no more room for anyone else. So they actually stop breeding. If the female rabbit has got rabbits inside itself and looks around and there's not enough room, it ingests the rabbit. Now what we are doing at the moment, not you and I've only got one child, okay, fair enough. But for all the Muslim population of this country, we invaded this country, by the way. And in 15 years' time, this country, which has been my country ever since my great-great-great-great-grandfather was here. This country, I was talking to a boy the other day and in the pub, and I said, "Are you English?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Was your father English?" He said, "Yes, he was." "And how about your grandfather?" "Yes, he was." "And how about your great-great-grandfather?" He said, "Yes, he was." And I said, "I'll tell you what, mate. In less than 30 years' time, this entire country will be 65 to 75% black or brown." And he said, "You don't have to tell me, mate. You don't have to tell me. It's happening already." Now, I'm not racist. I don't mind. But what I like is proportion. It's a question of proportion. You see, I have no objection to the Jamaican being here, or the man from Iran being here, or the man from Baghdad being here, or whatever. I don't mind that at all. But this is my country, and I want proportion. Now, what these people do is they come in here, and you know what? 80% of the housing run by the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, of which this is one, 80% of it is not lived in by one single Englishman. Only 20% of the English people are living. In this building alone, there are 35 flats in here, 35 of them. I am the only Englishman in this place. And therefore, you see, Quique, there is a sort of, when a wave comes from the bottom of the sea, you call that a groundswell. If you're swimming and you feel a wave coming from underneath, that is called a groundswell. And there is a huge groundswell of discontent in this country at the moment, and the government just ignores it. Doesn't know it. There are certain areas of Nottingham, just round here. There are certain streets. There are certain streets very near here. I've been told by people I've met, moth. Don't go down those streets. Those are no-go areas. They belong to the black community. They're not allowed to go down there. And this is just one part of London. And it's all over the place. There are certain parts of a town called Bradford in the north of England where you've got written on the walls, whites go home. And this is England. Yusuf? And I'm going to fight. I'll fight like a tiger to get the balance redressed. See? Now, if I were to take an aeroplane and take it to Nigeria, okay? Paid my flight. I get off at Lagos Airport in Nigeria, and I say, I don't agree with Tony Blair. I am an asylum seeker. I want asylum in your country, please. You know what would happen? They would put me on the next plane back to Heathrow and then say, you get back to your country. What happens here? Anyone at all who's got the money can come in from any country, Africa, Lithuania, Bosnia, Czechoslovakia, wherever it is, and they come in, and as soon as they land at Heathrow, they say, I'm an asylum seeker because I'm being persecuted in my country. And they are given a hostel. They're given food. They're given spending money. They're given, and they just, sometimes they wait for 6 months. Sometimes they even wait for a year to be given British citizenship. But in the meantime, they have fed, they are clothed, they have the television, they have everything they need. And they come in by thousands every week. This is true. This is absolutely... There are no rules about the situation. No. As long as you get in, you get off the plane. As long as you've got your ticket, you can come from anywhere. Anywhere at all. You land and you say, go come inside. I haven't got any money.
There are several areas in London. For example, Golders Green. There are a lot of Jews in Golders Green, and a lot of Arabics in other communities. No, isn't on London divided by several communities?
Oh yes.
I'd like to know about this.
Oh yes, you bet it is. Oh yeah, there were certainly Arab quarters, this quarter, that quarter, this. I mean, it's in London. It potentially, Yi Chong would say, she wouldn't walk around in. Used to be able to walk in Soho, which you probably know in the Piccadilly and so forth. Oh, you used to be able to walk about in London anytime, anywhere. Can't now. Well, you saw when we were coming out of the loo in the Victoria and Albert Museum. Did you see all those black people there? I knew some of them big. Well, that's took out of now, but and it's getting worse and worse and worse. I can tell you that. It's very sad to say.
Are you proud?
I'm not proud to be English. I am extremely proud to be English. Of course I am. 1000%. You bet I am. And I consider that what we've contributed to the world and what we've contributed to literature. We probably the greatest poet ever in the whole of the world of Shakespeare out there, without a doubt, but I'm very proud. I am proud of being English 100%, but I am no longer proud of belonging to Britain. You see the difference?
No.
What? I'm proud of being English. Right? 100% proud of being English. But I'm not proud of England at the moment.
Ah, yes.
You understand me? You see the difference? I'm proud of being English, but I am no longer proud of England at all. I'm not proud of the government. I'm not proud of their policies. I'm not proud of the immigration policies. I'm not proud of what they're doing about traffic. I'm not proud of the railways. I'm not proud of that, but I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of I'm proud of being English, but I am not any more proud of England, which is a sad thing to say. Very sad thing to say. The other day I was walking down the street and there was a little black boy and he dropped some paper on the floor. I said, "Excuse me, would you be kind enough to pick that up and put..." I was very polite. "Would you be kind enough to pick that up and put it in that little dustbin over there? Don't you think that'd be a good idea?" Fuck off. And the little black boy. I said, "Will you be kind enough to pick that up, Abe, and put it that? That's what it's for, you see. That'd be a nice thing, don't you think? Fuck off." Raphael, when you get that sort of thing, I was damn tempted to give him a bloody cream. But if I'd done that, of course, I'd be in prison.
And do you think Conservative Party would improve the situation?
Yes, I think they probably would. I think they would, but it would take a long time. I think, yes, I think they would. Because Tony Blair is, he's big-headed. He wants everything done in 5 minutes. He's not a philosopher at all. He wants everything done in 5 minutes flat. He wants radical changes made, here, there, and everywhere. And he doesn't think things through thoroughly. He's not what I call a long thinker. He is what I call a man who thinks. Well, we've got a problem with, yes. Well, what we do is this. He doesn't push his thoughts. He doesn't think, well, now, all right, well, I'll tell you a story which explains it all. There are two bulls in a field, you see. One is a very old bull indeed, and the other is a young bull. And one day the farmer left the gate open to the next door field where there were lots and lots and lots of cows, you see.
some young, some old, some elderly, some sprightly, some good looking, and some not so good looking, you see.
And the young bull came galloping up to the old bull, and he said, "Look, the farmer's left the gate open. Look at all those cows down there. Let's gallop down and have some fun."
And the old bull said, "No, what we will do is we will walk down and we will have even more fun."
And you see, it may be an absurd story, but you think about it, there's a lot of truth in that story, because if you take your time, you've got time to think about this and that. Whereas you rush into things, you don't have time at all, and you make mistakes. You may make the right rapid decisions, fine, as a quick solution. For example, a typical example, if you're in charge of electricity in this country, and you think, "Oh God, I hope you must do something about the electricity," you may make a quick decision. You will say, "Okay, what we do, we will have a nuclear power station." So that's your decision. But what you don't think about is what you're going to do with the nuclear waste. That's the point. I can say, "Okay, right, I'm in charge of electricity. I don't mind. 15 nuclear power stations? Yes, right. I'll be dead before I have to worry about that." What they don't realize is that no one yet has solved the problem of how to get rid of nuclear waste. So what they did, they live, you see, the whole trouble with modern thinking and modern people is living in the immediate present for a very short time span, maybe your own lifespan. And then, well, what happens after that? I don't care, because I'll be dead. I'll be in hell. Nuclear power station, nuclear waste. I'll be dead by then. Never mind. It's bad thinking. And that lack of,
I thought, long thinking is something that disturbs me very greatly indeed. It does. And
you see, one of the things, Quique, that this present government is absolutely can't even begin to cope with is the National Health Service, you see. Now, the National Health Service in this country is 100% free for anyone. Yes, for anyone. Doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or you haven't got a penny. If you're a millionaire and you've cut your thumb, you can still go into any hospital and you don't have to pay a penny. This is absolutely ridiculous, And if you're a tramp and sleeping in the street and you cut your foot and you've only got £2 in your pocket, you don't pay a penny, but the millionaire doesn't pay a penny either. So it's absolutely mad. And so they're trying to say, "Oh, well, the National Health Service is in deficit, you see." Because it was introduced about, I don't know, something like 40 years ago. I can't remember by whom it was. Anyway, and the idea was free health for everyone, you see. Well, when that was introduced, the average amount of money that everyone had was more or less equal. But now it's like that. And the difference between the rich and the poor in this country is astronomical. Yeah. Absolutely vast. No, it is. Some of these people, in charge of British Rail or the post office or things like that, absolutely monumental salaries. Enough to buy this flat 5 times over if it were for sale, at least. And then you've got this. And so Tony Blair says, we want to spend more money on the National Health Service, you see. He hasn't a clue. We have an expression. 2 planks put together. One plank. One plank is a floorboard, right? Plank. This plank. Right? You say as thick as 2 planks. Thick means, thick means stupid. Thick as 2 planks. He doesn't think at all. He's got people around him saying, do this, do that. I can solve the National Health Service problem in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes. Whole damn thing I'll solve in 5 minutes. And that is very simple. Every time you go to see your doctor, you pay 5%, which is modest, 5% of your weekly income. So the doctor says, what is your weekly income? And you have to declare what your weekly income is. So if your weekly income is £200, then you pay £10, which is 5% of £200. There and there. And if the managing director of Barclays Bank goes in because he's cut his finger and his weekly income is £1,000, which may well be, he pays 5%.
Do you think that the Queen, the monarchy, is an interrupt forever?
50 years time. No, I don't think so. It's forever? I don't think so. I think you will disappear. I think you will disappear. When? Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I don't know. I know that the Queen, the present Queen, is hanging on because she does not like her son Prince Charles. Right? The Queen does not like her son Prince Charles, and she doesn't. She doesn't, because she thinks that Prince Charles treated Princess Diana, very badly. But there you are. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
But he is the future King of England.
Yes. Yes. But I believe that if the Queen wanted, if she wanted, I believe she can say, I do not want Charles to be the future king. I think that's what's called a royal prerogative, a decision that she can make on Charles' son. And then in that will be there. In that case, yes, but Charles' son has been misbehaving enormous. Charles' son, gracious. She's what is the future? Well, I was in that case on your monarchy. Well, maybe the younger one. Prince William or his chief. That's though, isn't it? Very bad. Did you see that? Harry, that's Duncan. Very bad. Very bad. Now, what we would do, there's a nice little pub up the road. I'll introduce it to some friends of mine up there. That'd be nice. But I'd like to invite you some sandwich, okay? First of all. No. I've had enough to be. No. I've had enough. They have sandwiches. There. Yes. We go there. We'll go there. Bless you. It's been a pleasure. Well, we had enticing with you. Well, it's a great pleasure to have you here. I'm sorry my place is when you next seek it. Quique, when you next come, you will find this place completely changed. Yep. Oh yes. Because a lot of this stuff is going down to Hastings, you see. And I have a good idea. I have this very good idea. I will show you. This bed is up that high. Because if you sit this, see, you can put underneath there your desk. Under the bed. All I have to do is use that light. It's easy. Oh, I got my chair. I got my piece of wood. That goes on. Sis, and the bed goes up. Now, doesn't now. The bed will obscure the window a wee bit. That doesn't matter. Because the pillar, okay, here, and see, and their desk goes underneath. Very clever. Never mind. Why not? Never mind. Why not? You see. 10 was saying, well, never mind. It's a damn good idea. I hadn't lost.
Excuse